The Battle of White Knight County made Shinlang famous throughout the Kingdom. Such a talent naturally sparked a rivalry between the Crown Prince and the Third Prince. On Shinlang's journey back to the capital city, the two princes sent their trusted aides to win him over. However, Shinlang looked down on both of them, so how could he let them succeed? But the most disgusting thing was that the Crown Prince actually sent his mistress, Zhuo Xiaoyan, to offer herself to him, which was a great insult to Shinlang. In the end, after being humiliated by Shinlang, Zhuo Xiaoyan left in anger. However, before she left, her warning left a seed of doubt in Shinlang's heart. Young Master Shin, I advise you to return to the capital city quickly, and don't linger when you pass through Lang County. There might be a surprise waiting for you in the capital city. Wu Lai came to report, Young Master Shin, the Third Prince has come to visit. Shinlang's expression remained calm upon hearing this, as if he had already anticipated this visit. Soon, Shinlang met Ning Qi in the backyard of the post station. Ning Qi got straight to the point. Shinlang, what do you want from us? Hearing him refer to himself with the royal we, Shinlang's eyebrow twitched slightly. The Third Prince was not the Crown Prince, so how could he use such a term? But on second thought, if the sovereign didn't care, why should he make an issue of it? So he said, I need nothing but revenge. At these words, Ning Qi frowned and said, can the hatred between you and the Shui family truly not be resolved? Shinlang spread his hands. I'm sorry, but I can't turn a blind eye to the enemies who tried to harm my family. Hearing this, Ning Qi pressed on. Since you want revenge, there must be a priority, right? If you and I join forces, wouldn't it be more efficient? The Third Prince's meaning was clear. He wanted Shinlang to help him overthrow the Crown Prince. But if that time came, with the throne in his grasp, it would be nearly impossible for Shinlang to act against the Shui family. Thinking of this, Shinlang said, Your Highness, the Third Prince, your abilities are outstanding and truly command respect. But when I choose allies, I'd rather they be as foolish as a pig than someone who shares my bed but has different dreams. As he finished speaking, Ning Qi sighed. If that's the case, we won't insist. However, the Shui family belongs to us. If you move against them, you make an enemy of us. With that, he gestured with an invitation. We have prepared a banquet. Please, join us. After tonight, you and I will be enemies. Seeing this, Shinlang smiled and said, Your Highness, the Third Prince, you aren't planning to poison the food and wine. Adopting it if I can't have it, I'll destroy it attitude. Are you? At this, Ning Qi's face darkened. We are the dignified Third Prince. We would not stoop to such despicable means. Seeing the joke had gone too far, Shinlang quickly apologized with a smile. Oh, I was just joking. Your Highness is magnanimous and would surely not hold it against me. A moment later, the two sat facing each other at the table. No one spoke, only the clinking of cups echoed in the night. Late at night, Ning Qi rose silently and walked straight out of the post station without a word of farewell. Listening to the Third Prince's fading footsteps, neither the Crown Prince nor the Third Prince had succeeded in winning him over this time, so a new battle was likely about to begin. Just as Zhuo Xiaoyan had said before leaving, the person behind the scenes had already made a move, and something must have happened in the capital city. But what could it be? The next day, Shinlang led his army and hurried back to the capital city without stopping. The last time he returned triumphantly from his mission to the Chan Kingdom, the entire city was filled with the sound of gongs and drums, and tens of thousands of people welcomed him. This time, he had annihilated the Su family and captured Jingtua, performing a great service for the Kingdom, even to the point of being called a national hero. Yet, upon his return, the area around the city gate was silent, except for the gate guards. Not a single person was to be seen. Not only that, but when his troops reached the city gate, they were stopped for questioning. A guard commander stepped forward and asked contemptuously, Are you from White Knight County? Shinlang nodded slightly. Before he could ask anything, the commander suddenly shouted, Everyone, stand back immediately. Surround this unit. As he spoke, 1,000 ironclad cavalrymen swarmed out from both sides, surrounding Shinlang and his men in an instant. The commander then stepped forward and clasped his hands, but his tone was disrespectful. My apologies, Lord Shin, but there is a smallpox outbreak in White Knight County. Anyone entering the capital city must be inspected and quarantined for 5 days. Only after being confirmed to be fine can they enter the city. Hearing this, Shinlang sneered inwardly. Everyone knew that the smallpox vaccine was his creation. Now they wanted to quarantine him. This kind of obstruction was clearly aimed at him deliberately. Thinking of this, he asked in a deep voice, Whose order is this? The commander feigned difficulty. This is a joint order from the Secretariat, the Bureau of Military Affairs, and the capital city's office of the Central Commander. I am just following orders, so please don't blame me, Lord Shin. With that, he directly ordered the soldiers behind him, Men, take Lord Shin's troops to the great courtyard for quarantine. No one is to leave. Before Shinlang could respond to the order, Wu Lai and the other female generals behind him were already furious. Were these people blind? White Knight County was 1,000 miles from the capital city. If they were really infected, they would have shown symptoms on the way. Moreover, they had fought and bled in White Knight County, saving the nation from peril. Now, upon returning to the capital city, instead of being rewarded, they were to be imprisoned and humiliated. This was too much, simply too much. However, Shinlang remained very calm and asked, May I ask which general you are? The commander replied proudly, I am the guerrilla general of the capital city's commander's office, Wang Dong. Shinlang immediately understood. The capital city, named Tianyua, had a status equivalent equivalent to a province despite being just one city. It not only had the Tianhua office of the central commander, which was in charge of all military and political affairs, but also the Tianhua commander's office, which managed the city's defenses. The position of guerrilla general was not low in the commander's office. A leader of 1,000 households would have been sufficient to guard the gate of the mythical turtle, but they had sent a guerrilla general. What a grand gesture. Thinking of this, a wicked smile appeared on his face. He then pointed to the army behind him and shouted, "General Wang, my soldiers and I have all been vaccinated with cowpox beforehand and can guarantee there is no risk of infection. I can also lead them to the third princess's mansion for self-quarantine. After 5 days, we will ask the office of the central commander to send doctors for an examination. Once we are confirmed to be fine, we will leave." However, before he could finish, Wang Dong produced a document and said, "I'm sorry, Lord Shin, but I cannot obey. This is an official document from my superiors. Please have a look." Shinlang glanced at the document. It clearly stated that anyone entering the capital city from the Western Celestial Province, regardless of their official rank, must be quarantined. This was especially true for those returning from White Knight County, who were not allowed to have private contact with anyone to nip the epidemic in the bud. Anyone who resisted with arms or disobeyed this order would be killed without exception. Killed without exception. After reading it, a cold light flashed in Shinlang's eyes. The document bore the seals of the Secretariat, the Bureau of Military Affairs, the Tianhua office of the Central Commander, and the Tianhua Commander's office. The weight of this decree was second only to the sovereign's own edict. More importantly, while the decree seemed reasonable, it was actually aimed directly at him, Shinlang. Once he agreed to be quarantined, it would be like tying his own hands. In that case, the political achievements he had gained from annihilating the Su family would be instantly erased. Everyone would then think that no matter how capable Shinlang was, he was just a small fry in the capital city. What a brilliant move. But if you want to stab me, Shinlang, in the back, you'd better be able to bear the consequences. At this thought, Shinlang's lips curled into a half smile as he asked, "General Wang, if I insist on not going into quarantine, what will be the punishment?" Wang Dong was taken aback, then said, "Lord Shin, I am also acting on orders. I hope you won't make things difficult for me." Unexpectedly, Shinlang ignored his show of weakness and pressed on, his voice suddenly rising. "I'm asking you, what will happen if I defy the order? Answer me." At these words, the cavalrymen behind Wang Dong drew their swords as a threat. Wang Dong waved to stop them and then said coldly, "Lord Shin, I have already shown you the document. It states very clearly that anyone from White Knight County who refuses quarantine or even resists with arms will be killed without exception for the safety of the millions of citizens in the capital city." While he was speaking, a large crowd of onlookers began to file out from within the city gate. Seeing this, Wang Dong shouted to the people behind him, "Fellow citizens, this is the famous Lord Shinlang." Before he finished, whispers of accusation spread through the crowd. "So this pretty boy is the traitor who brought Chang soldiers into our country and plundered White Knight County. Was he also the one who killed the meritorious General Zheng and Governor Liang?" Wang Dong seized the opportunity and raised his arms high, shouting, "As everyone knows, smallpox is now rampant in White Knight County. To protect the millions of citizens of the capital city, the Secretariat, the Bureau of Military Affairs, and the Office of the Central Commander have jointly issued this decree. Fellow citizens, is there anything wrong with doing this?" The crowd erupted again. "This damn pretty boy wants to bring smallpox back to the capital city. How despicable. Arrest them quickly. Don't let the plague spread to our capital city." Hearing the people's condemnation, Shin 13, who was standing nearby, gritted his teeth in anger. "What a bunch of ungrateful wretches. They want to quarantine us. Do you have any idea whose effort it is that the capital city hasn't been affected by smallpox? If it weren't for my master using thousands of troops to lock down White Knight County, do you think you'd still be shouting here?" At that moment, Wang Dong dismounted and walked up to Shinlang, bowing respectfully. "Lord Shin, you've seen it for yourself. This is not just an order from the Secretariat, but also the will of the people of the capital city. For the safety of the people, please have your troops lay down their weapons for inspection, and then follow me to the great courtyard for quarantine." Shinlang watched him with cold eyes, a chilling look growing in them. What a fine moral high ground. What a fine way to frame someone. "You, Wang Dong, probably know better than anyone whether we are at risk of being infected with smallpox. If you are truly afraid of contagion, how would you dare to stand so close to me?" Seeing that Shinlang remained unmoved, Wang Dong knelt and wept. "Lord Shin, I know you have performed great service. Although my official rank is 2 or 3 levels higher than yours, for the safety of the people of the capital city, I kneel before you." Wang Dong's dramatic gesture immediately ignited public anger. "General Wang, you are a truly good official. This Shinlang is too arrogant. Does having military merit mean he can do whatever he wants? Does it mean he can disregard the lives of us common people?" Hearing these condemnations, Shinlang couldn't help but laugh out loud. For the sake of the common people again, why is the moral high ground always occupied? He then completely ignored these voices and said, "General Wang, what if I don't accept your proposal?" At these words, Wang Dong immediately stood up and shouted sternly, "In that case, for the safety of the people of the capital city, don't blame me for being ruthless, Lord Shin. All troops, form ranks." As he spoke, the 1,000 elite soldiers behind him moved on command, advancing towards Shinlang's army. Shinlang, not to be outdone done, waved his hand, and Wu Lai, Shin 13, and the other soldiers drew their sabers and rode their horses to block Shinlang's path. Seeing this, Wang Dong feigned a pained expression. Lord Shin, are you planning to resist the Secretariat's decree with arms? You brought this upon yourself. All troops, listen to my command. Though his words were righteous, a flash of triumphant pleasure crossed his mind. After all, he had 1,000 elite soldiers on his side. If a fight really broke out, Shinlang's side was sure to be annihilated. However, Shinlang looked at him as if he were an idiot and uttered softly, "What a moron." He then said to Big Fool beside him, "Big Fool, it's your turn." At Shinlang's command, Big Fool closed his eyes, raised the black iron sword in his hand, and charged at Wang Dong. Wang Dong was terrified and had just started to shout, "Shinlang, are you trying to rebel?" when Big Fool's black iron sword came crashing down on his head. In an instant, a mist of blood erupted, and Wang Dong, along with his horse, was split in two by the single strike. His remains and entrails scattered across the ground. This bloody scene stunned all the soldiers present. It wasn't until someone tremblingly shouted, the general has been killed. Seize them, that Shinlang stepped forward and said coldly, "I, Shinlang, have important military matters to attend to. Anyone who obstructs my entry into the city will be killed without mercy." As his voice fell, Big Fool once again swung his black iron sword and charged. In the span of a single breath, the obstacles in front were sent flying into the air, men and horses alike, by Big Fool. Watching the fleeing guards, Shinlang murmured to himself, "Wang Dong, didn't the person behind you just want to use you to provoke my anger, to make me lose my mind and kill you? Congratulations, you got your wish." After a while, the sounds of fighting gradually subsided until it was quiet again. Shinlang looked at the dismembered limbs on the ground with no emotion in his heart. He then gave a calm order, "We're entering the city." With that, he stepped over the scattered remains and, under the gaze of the onlookers, led his army towards the city gate. A moment later, someone finally recovered from the extreme shock and stammered out, "Murder! Shinlang is going to rebel." At this moment, Shinlang was walking along the mythical Turtle Avenue towards the fifth prince's residence, but the surroundings were eerily quiet. The streets lacked their usual hustle and bustle, and there were no pursuing soldiers coming to arrest him. This unusual calm made Shinlang realize that Wang Dong's death was just an appetizer, and the real contest was about to begin. After a while, the group finally arrived at Ning Zheng's residence. The moment they stepped into the courtyard, Ning Zheng's trusted eunuch rushed to greet them. "Young Master Shin, I have finally been waiting for your return." The old eunuch's demeanor made Shinlang's heart sink. "What happened?" The old eunuch cried. "Young Master Shin, the fifth prince was taken away by the men from the clan affairs court." At these words, Shinlang's pupils contracted sharply. How dare the clan affairs court take the fifth prince away? Was he taken to a villa for house arrest? The old eunuch shook his head. "It's imprisonment. His Highness has been locked up in the clan affairs court prison." Hearing this, Shinlang's face turned pale. No matter how out of favor Ningjing was, he was still the sovereign's own son. When the third princess, Ningyan, had committed a grave mistake, she was only confined to a villa of the clan affairs court to reflect on her actions. Now that Ningjing had been sent to prison, the situation was far more serious than he had imagined. Thinking of this, he hurriedly asked, "Why did they take the fifth prince away?" The old eunuch stammered, "Because the fifth prince killed someone." Shinlang was shocked. How is that possible? Ningjing is introverted but kind. How could he possibly kill someone? Seeing Shinlang stunned, the old eunuch sighed and said, "It's true. The deputy minister, the assistant minister, and the chief clerk of the court of judicial review, as well as 2 warriors, were all killed by the fifth prince." Upon hearing this, Shinlang was utterly shocked. The deputy minister of the court of judicial review was a 4th-rank official, not to mention a 6th-rank assistant minister and a 7th-rank chief clerk. Even a favored prince couldn't bear such a charge, let alone an unfavored one like Ningjing. Little Bing, with her pregnant belly, hurried over from the inner courtyard and called out from behind him, "You're finally back." She then threw herself into Shinlang's arms, aggrieved. After a moment, she looked up with teary eyes and choked out, "Young Master Shin, I was the one who killed them. The fifth prince took the blame for me. You must find a way to save him." Then, Little Bing told Shinlang the whole story. It turned out that the incident was caused by the 2 daughters of Yufang from the Skywind bookshop. Yufang and his wife had tried to frame Jin Mutsong, and Shinlang had dealt with them in an extremely cruel manner. These 2 girls, who were already disliked at home, were taken in by Shinlang. However, according to the laws of the Great Yu, the crime Yufang committed was punishable by the execution of his entire family. So, 3 days ago, the newly appointed deputy minister of the court of judicial review suddenly led soldiers to storm the residence, claiming to be there to arrest Yufang's orphan daughters. Little Bing tried to stop them but was nearly harmed. In her desperation to protect her unborn child, she instinctively fired the rainstorm of hidden blades that Shinlang had left her for self-defense, killing the officials from the court of judicial review and 2 guards. As she spoke of this, the frightened Little Bing was already sobbing uncontrollably. After composing herself, she continued, "Later, when the fifth prince returned and learned of this, he worried for me because I was pregnant and took all the blame for the murders. Then, men from the court of judicial review and the clan affairs court came together and forcibly took the fifth prince and the 2 children away." After listening to Little Bing's account, Shinlang held her tightly, a cold light shining in his eyes. He knew very well that in the entire Yu Kingdom. Besides the sovereign, there was only one person capable of setting up such a grand and deadly trap, the Crown Prince, Ning Yi. And everything he did was a feint. The ultimate target was him, Shinlang. Before he could finish his thoughts, Wu Lai rushed in from outside. Master, it's not good. An army of about 2,000 soldiers is blocking the entrance to the residence. Just as she finished speaking, a thunderous roar echoed into the courtyard. Where's the criminal Shinlang? Hearing this, Shinlang showed no sign of panic. He calmly straightened his clothes and then walked out the gate, the military commander leading the troops outside. Seeing that Shinlang was a slender and refined-looking young man, shouted disdainfully, "Are you the criminal Shinlang?" Hearing the word criminal, Shinlang narrowed his eyes but didn't respond. He then looked up at the man and asked in a calm, flat voice, "May I know which command you are from?" The commander was taken aback by the question, then replied proudly, "I am Su Siming, a colonel in the Tianhua commander's office." Shinlang, an hour ago, you openly killed a guerrilla general of my commander's office at the gate of the mythical turtle. This act is tantamount to rebellion. Come with me to the commander's office for trial. As he finished speaking, several soldiers were about to step forward to seize him. Seeing this, Shinlang sneered inwardly. Interesting. When I broke through the gate of the mythical turtle just now, no one stopped me, but now they're making a big show of coming to arrest me. Are they trying to let me know that something has happened to Ningjing first, to give me some mental preparation? Without turning his head, he ordered, "Big fool, you stand guard at the gate. Kill anyone who tries to force their way in without mercy." After saying this, he walked straight back into the courtyard. When the soldiers outside saw Shinlang enter the courtyard, they were about to rush forward, but Big Fool's massive black iron sword slammed onto the ground. The loud crash of shattering bluestone forced the army back 3 steps, and even Su Siming was stunned by Big Fool's power. With a livid face, Su Siming gritted his teeth and shouted, "All troops, listen to my command. Surround the entire residence and await further orders." At his command, the 2,000 soldiers from the commander's office instantly surrounded the 5th prince's residence, leaving no gaps. Meanwhile, in a tea house 100 meters away, a figure stood by the railing. It was none other than the crown prince's mistress, Shu Zhaoyan. It turned out that everything was just as Shinlang had suspected. It was the crown prince's doing. She smiled triumphantly and said, "Shinlang, you've become so arrogant just because you eliminated the Su family. Do you really think you are powerful enough to be an enemy of His Highness the Crown Prince? You dared to humiliate me like that before, but don't forget, in the grand game of chess in the capital city, you are ultimately just an ant." At the same time, not far from the 5th prince's residence, Shui Pan, the heir of the Martial Peace Count's mansion, was also sitting in a carriage, quietly enjoying the show. "Shinlang, you boastful pretty boy. I wondered how tough you were to actually reject the Shui family's offer and even brazenly claim you would destroy us. In the end, you came back to the capital city only to be taken care of by a woman under the Crown Prince. Now that you've offended both the Crown Prince and the 3rd Prince, I'd like to see how you, a cornered beast, will break out of this deadly trap." Back at the 5th Prince's residence, the old eunuch was pacing anxiously in the room. "This is so frustrating. We haven't even rescued the 5th Prince, and now young Master Shin has gotten into trouble again. What are we to do?" Shinlang, sitting calmly to the side, comforted him. "Don't worry too much, old sir. The current situation may seem critical, but it's mostly just a bluff." Of course, Shinlang dared to say this because he knew that the key to this game lay in the sovereign's will. The most urgent task now was to find a way to rescue Ningjing, not just from prison, but to push him to the highest position. The strategy for dealing with the Crown Prince and the 3rd Prince this time was completely different from before. Previously, it was enough to just eliminate the opponent, but now, to defeat these 2 high-level adversaries, he first had to make the sovereign establish the 5th Prince as the heir apparent. Otherwise, with his strength alone, it would indeed be difficult to contend with these 2 heavyweight opponents. The first step was to get Ningjing's position officially recognized by persuading the sovereign to grant him a title and a mansion. Second, he needed to build a core team for the 5th Prince. Then came the crucial step. He would lead this new force of Ningjings to continuously achieve great deeds, letting the whole world know how capable Ningjing was, and completely change the sovereign's opinion of him. By then, he could completely eliminate the Crown Prince and the 3rd Prince, allowing Ningjing to replace them and become the new heir apparent of the Yu Kingdom. A hint of anticipation flashed in Shinlang's eyes. When the great undertaking was complete, he, Shinlang, could finally relax and return to the marquee of the mythical turtle's mansion to enjoy a life of wealth and leisure with his beloved Mulan. The sovereign Ning Yuanxian, still far away in the borderlands, was deliberately keeping the King of Wu at the northern palace to intimidate the Chu Kingdom into suing for peace. During this time, the 2 monarchs drank and recited poetry together every day. This carefully crafted image of harmony made the 2 opposing sides seem as close as brothers. On this day, the 2 rulers began another game of chess, and Ning Yuanxian was now winning more than he was losing. According to him, it was simply because he had figured out the King of Wu's playing style. After a while, Ning Yuanxian once again won by a single piece against the King of Wu. He clasped his hands and smiled. It is truly rare for the King of Wu to have such superb chess skills at such a young age. We have not had such a satisfying game in a long time. At this point, he complained with a hint of disdain. Only when playing against you, my worthy brother, do we We know what it means to be evenly matched. When we played chess with that boy Shinlang a while ago, his skills were simply unbearable to watch. We will never play a second game with him in this lifetime. Hearing this, the King of Wu smiled on the surface but couldn't help but complain inwardly. In the few days he had spent with the King of Wu, the number of times he mentioned Shinlang was even more than his own son, showing how much he valued the boy. With this thought, the King of Wu quickly added with a smile, "You are too modest, Your Majesty. Your exquisite chess skills leave me in awe. The number of talented individuals under your command also makes me quite envious." Hearing this, Ning Yuanxian waved his hand arrogantly. "My Yu kingdom does have a few talented people, but that boy Shinlang is frivolous and impetuous. Although he has some cleverness, it's not worth mentioning." Listening to Ning Yuanxian's slightly boastful tone, the King of Wu was truly at a loss for words. Just as they were speaking, Li Ji hurried to Ning Yuanxian's side and whispered, "Your Majesty, an urgent secret letter has arrived from the capital city, sent 800 miles express." Ning Yuanxian was taken aback. When he opened it and saw the contents, his expression changed instantly. Ning Jin killed 5 officials from the Court of Judicial Review. Shinlang openly executed Guerrilla General Wang Dong at the gate of the mythical turtle. How is this possible? Seeing that Ning Yuanxian's expression was off, the King of Wu tactfully stood up and said, "It's getting late. Since you have important matters to attend to, I will go back and rest first. Please don't overwork yourself and get some rest early." Ning Yuanxian, having regained his composure, quickly adjusted his expression, stood up, exchanged a few more pleasantries with the King of Wu, and then had Li Ji see him out. As soon as the King of Wu left, Ning Yuanxian angrily slapped the secret letter on the table and asked with a dark face, "Has the commander's office arrested Shinlang yet?" Li Ji replied tremblingly, "Not yet, but they have dispatched 2,000 soldiers to surround Shinlang in the 5th prince's residence." At these words, Ning Yuanxian exploded with rage. "We are not dead yet. Are they that impatient? Do they really think we are a fool? Li Ji, tomorrow, send the King of Wu back to the Wu kingdom with full honors, and then immediately prepare the carriage to return to the capital city. We want to see for ourselves what these people are up to." Soon after, the news of the sovereign's return to the capital spread throughout the royal family of the Yu kingdom within half a day. The next morning, at the crown prince's residence in the capital city, the 6th prince, Ning Jing, had been making up all sorts of excuses to stay there ever since he learned of his uncle Su Nan's rebellion. Especially after hearing that the Su family had been annihilated, he knew even more clearly that although his and his mother consort Su's lives were not in danger as the sovereign's son and consort, it was impossible to maintain their former status in the palace. Therefore, for the sake of his own future, he had to rack his brains to get close to the crown prince. At this moment, Zhuo Xiaoyan, who had just finished pouring tea for the two, suddenly said, "Your Highness, a spy reports that His Majesty was furious at the palace yesterday and has already set off southward. He should arrive in the capital city in about 4 days." The crown prince remained silent upon hearing this. Ning Jing quickly said, "Father is returning in such a hurry this time. He must have heard about the incident at the gate of the mythical turtle. If you ask me, Shinlang must have gone mad to openly kill a court general at the gate of the mythical turtle. What is this if not rebellion? Is he getting carried away because of his great achievements?" Zhuo Xiaoyan also chimed in, "Your Highness the Crown Prince, there is no need to worry. His Majesty has always been clear about his likes and dislikes. Although Shinlang has rendered meritorious service, killing someone in front of all the people of the capital city, and a guerrilla general of the court at that, is an act tantamount to rebellion. It will also remind His Majesty of the time Su Nan fought his way out of the Vermilion Bird Gate." Hearing this, Ning Jing excitedly added, "That's right. Father values his reputation the most. Anyone who dares to disgrace him will surely die, even if they have performed meritorious service. This time, Shinlang is probably doomed." Before he could finish, the Crown Prince frowned and gave him a sideways glance. The gloomy look in his eyes instantly made Ning Jing's hair stand on end. He quickly changed the subject. "Miss Shuo is truly brilliant. Now both Ning Jing and Shinlang are accused of killing court officials. One plan kills 2 birds with 1 stone. It's truly a case of one misfortune following another for Shinlang." While these two were echoing each other, the Crown Prince suddenly said coldly, "Xiaoyan, that's twice." This sudden sentence made Zhuo Xiaoyan's heart tremble. She hurriedly knelt and kowtowed to the Crown Prince. Others might not have understood the meaning of these few words, but she, who had served the Crown Prince for years, knew it all too well. The Crown Prince was reprimanding her. It was because of her senior brother Ku Tuhuan's failure that the Wu Kingdom had misjudged the situation, not only losing the Battle of Furious Tide City but also causing heavy losses to the Hidden Origin Society. After some thought, Zhuo Xiaoyan slowly raised her head and pleaded, "Your Highness, there are certainly people in the world with higher martial arts skills than Ku Tuhuan, but most of them are difficult to command. I beg your Highness to give him another chance, considering his many years of service to you, for his hard work even if he has no merits." However, the Crown Prince looked at her with murderous intent and said coldly, "Capture him and execute him publicly." The coldness in his eyes made Zhuo Xiaoyan's body tremble, and she replied in fear, "Your servant will capture him as soon as possible and bring him before you." Meanwhile, in the Prime Minister's mansion in the capital city, Zhu Rong, the governor of the province of the Southern Journey, came to the study and said respectfully to the person in front of him, "Father, His Majesty has left less than 100 miles from the capital city, much faster than we expected. From the urgency of his travel, it is clear that His Majesty is very angry about this. Hearing Zhu Rong's words, the long-serving Prime Minister of the Secretariat, Zhu Hong, continued to copy documents with a calm expression, only replying with 3 words, "Let him be." Seeing his father's composure, Zhu Rong couldn't help but step forward and say, "But father, the decree that everyone from White Knight County entering the capital city, regardless of their status, must first be quarantined was issued by the Secretariat. After all, now everyone in the court and the public believes this matter is related to you." Hearing this, Zhu Hong said without looking up, "Whether I issue the decree or not, I believe His Majesty knows in his heart. Zhu Rong, remember this. Although our Zhu family supports His Highness the Crown Prince, at this moment, there are some things we don't need to get involved in, nor is it our place to interfere." Zhu Rong immediately understood. After a moment of thought, he asked, "What about Shinlang?" At the mention of Shinlang's name, Zhu Hong slowly put down his brush, stroked his beard, and said, "This man and I walk different paths. We are not meant to conspire together." Time flew by, and after 3 days of exhausting travel, the sovereign finally returned to the capital city. Although he arrived a day earlier than everyone expected, the crown prince still led the court officials with the grandest ceremony to welcome the sovereign's triumphant return. Afterwards, following ancestral tradition, the sovereign went to the sacred temple to pay respects to his ancestors. By the time all the rituals were completed and he entered the royal palace, it was already night. Although the sovereign was very tired, he still summoned the Tianhua commander, Zhang Zhao, reporting to Your Majesty, 5 days ago, Shinlang led his army back to the capital city. According to the decree of the Secretariat and the Bureau of Military Affairs, all those returning from White Knight County must first be quarantined and inspected to ensure they are healthy before entering the capital city. However, Shinlang, arrogant because of his merits, defied the decree and openly killed the commander's office's guerrilla General Wang Dong and 83 city guards. Such behavior is simply appalling. This subject did not dare to act on his own authority and requests Your Majesty's judgment. After listening to Zhang Zhao's report, the sovereign feigned extreme anger. What an audacious dog, this Shinlang. Does he think the gate of the mythical turtle is his own front door? Just because of his achievements in the Western Celestial Province, he dares to act so recklessly. He's simply asking for death. Take some men and go to Ning Jing's residence immediately. No matter what it takes, you must bring this dog to me. Half an hour later, Shinlang was brought before the sovereign. The moment Ning Yuanxian saw Shinlang's smiling face, he felt a sense of displeasure. "We have been working tirelessly at the border for nearly 2 months, looking as if we have aged 10 years. But this boy, after being exposed to the wind and sun in the Chan Kingdom for so long, not only shows no sign of haggardness but looks even more handsome than before." Seeing the sovereign staring at him with a face full of anger, Shinlang took the initiative to speak. "Your Majesty, when I returned to the capital city, something unpleasant happened at the gate of the mythical turtle." However, before he could finish, Ning Yuanxian interrupted him impatiently. "Enough, enough. You've always been good at arguing, and anything you say would just be some specious excuse. No need to say it." Shinlang was taken aback. Before he could recover, he saw the sovereign smile. "You've achieved such a great merit this time. Tell me, what reward do you want?" Hearing this, Shinlang's heart filled with joy. "Can I really ask for anything?" He actually began to think seriously. Seeing this, Ning Yuanxian's eyelids twitched, and he had a bad feeling. He quickly stood up to stop him. "Wait, you should listen to us first." He then made the arrangements directly. Yunmenza has already gone to Yanjing to discuss the matter of Ningyan's divorce with the prince. Since you and Ningyan have already consummated your relationship, we will choose an auspicious day for you to marry her. How about that? As for the Jin family, we will issue an edict to release you from your status as a live-in son-in-law. From now on, you will be Ningyan's prince consort. If you and Jin Mulan are unwilling to separate, we will not force you, but officially, you can only have Ningyan as your legal wife. Even Li Ji, his personal eunuch, was secretly surprised by the sovereign's decision, not to mention that His Majesty, with his harsh and ungrateful personality, would take the initiative to offer a princess in marriage to Shinlang, but now he could even turn a blind eye to his relationship with Jin Mulan. It was clear that His Majesty really valued this boy, Shinlang. However, in the next second, Shinlang's answer stunned both of them. Your Majesty, I really just want to be a leisurely live-in son-in-law. How about this? Since I slept with Princess Ningyan, I'll marry her too, and be a live-in son-in-law for both the Jin family and you at the same time. Actually, if I can marry into 2 families, it would make the Jin family even more loyal to you. This might even be a good thing." At these words, Ning Yuanxian was about to explode with anger. He never thought there could be someone as shameless as Shinlang in this world. Li Ji, standing by, was also stunned. "Are you crazy, Shinlang? How dare you refuse His Majesty's kind offer and say such outrageous things?" The enraged sovereign pointed at Shinlang and roared, "Guards, throw this scoundrel out for us." As he spoke, 2 guards from the Blackwater platform immediately threw Shinlang heavily outside the pavilion. But before he could get up, the sovereign's angry shout came from inside again. "Throw that dog back in here for me." The pitiful Shinlang was thus thrown back in front of the sovereign again. At this moment, Ning Yuanxian, filled with disappointment, roared at him, "Shinlang, you ungrateful dog. Remember this, you have forever missed the chance to become our son-in-law." However, Shinlang stood stood up, dusted himself off, and met the sovereign's anger with a foolish grin, not uttering a single word of defense for himself. Seeing the disheveled Shinlang, Ning Yuanxian's anger subsided considerably, but he still asked with a cold face, "Young Master Shen, since you have performed a great service, we cannot fail to reward you with something. What do you really want?" Hearing this, Shinlang's eyes lit up, automatically ignoring the sarcasm in the sovereign's tone, and said excitedly, "Your Majesty, will you really give me whatever I want?" Ning Yuanxian was so angry he shouted, "Speak if you have something to say, otherwise get out." Seeing that the time was right, Shinlang immediately bowed respectfully and said, "Your Majesty, I implore you to grant Prince Ningjing the title of Duke." At these words, Ning Yuanxian's expression changed instantly. "Shinlang, you are overstepping. Our appreciation for you does not mean you can interfere in our family affairs." However, Shinlang remained calm and said, "Your Majesty, although I am a vengeful person, I also know how to repay kindness. When the mythical turtle count's mansion was in trouble, everyone in the court avoided us, and only the fifth prince did his best to help. And this time, it was clearly my concubine who killed the officials of the Court of Judicial Review, but he still stepped forward and took all the blame. I owe the fifth prince too much." Hearing this, Ning Yuanxian's heart softened slightly, but he still scolded, "Shinlang, if you want to repay a debt, use your own things to do it. Don't try to use us to do favors." Shinlang was not surprised by the sovereign's reaction and continued, "In that case, I have nothing more to ask for. However, Your Majesty, I would like to inform you in advance of what I plan to do next. Please do not get too excited after hearing it." "Out with it," the sovereign roared, then sat down in a huff. He wanted to see what other tricks this Shinlang could come up with. At this moment, Shinlang said with a serious expression, "Your Majesty, now that my enemy Su Nan's clan has been annihilated by me, the grudge between us is settled. My next target is the Shui family." At these words, Ning Yuanxian was greatly shocked. "Shinlang, are you getting a bit too arrogant? Do you know that Shui Che, the Count of Martial Peace of the Shui family, is our absolute confidant? Most of the intelligence network and secret industries of the entire Yu Kingdom are under the control of the Shui family. Their power is beyond your imagination." However, Shinlang ignored the sovereign's shocked expression and continued, "I, Shinlang, have always remembered your Majesty's favor, but you are several decades older than me. Even with the Imperial Hospital taking care of your health, you can only continue to reign for another 20-odd years." As soon as these treasonous words were spoken, the sovereign wished he could go up and tear his mouth apart right then and there, but he still managed to suppress his anger and let Shinlang finish. "I know you don't like to hear this, but every word is the truth. After you are gone and the Crown Prince ascends the throne, without you to back me up, do you think the Crown Prince and the third prince will let me and the Jin family go? And I have said long ago that my father-in-law, Jin Zhua, and I have no intention of rebellion, nor do we want to take sides with any of the princes. But in such a situation, how can we protect ourselves? The simplest way is to drive both the third prince and the Crown Prince from power and make the least ambitious fifth prince, Ningjing, the new Crown Prince." At these words, the jade teacup in Ning Yuanxian's hand shattered. Burning with rage, he was about to order Shinlang to be thrown out again when he calmed down and thought about what Shinlang had said. It seemed that what he said was all true. The Jin family, including this boy, had indeed never shown any ambition. All they sought was self-preservation, but to support Ningjing. Thinking of that dark-skinned boy who had disgusted him since childhood, the sovereign shook his head, stood up, and said, "Shinlang, since you have been open with us, we will also be frank with you. We know that the assassination attempt on Jin Zhua was carried out by Kutuhuan, and that this person is indeed one of the Crown Prince's henchmen. But we can tell you clearly that the mastermind behind this was not the Crown Prince, but the Hidden Origin Society." Hearing this, Shinlang remained silent. Ning Yuanxian continued, "We know that your killing of the military commander at the gate of the mythical turtle and the deaths of the officials from the Court of Judicial Review were all implicitly approved by the Crown Prince, allowing Zhuo Zhaoyan to frame you. Although we can protect you in this matter, we cannot punish the Crown Prince. Do you understand?" Hearing this, Shinlang sighed. "I naturally understand. The Crown Prince is the heir apparent and the foundation of the state. If the Crown Prince's authority is shaken, the country will fall into chaos." Ning Yuanxian nodded. "It's good that you understand. Besides, you yourself have rejected the recruitment offers from the Crown Prince and the third prince, Ning Qi. We are even less likely to punish a prince for your sake. Since you cannot rely on us to fight against them, do you really intend to rely on that good-for-nothing Ningjing? Listen well, Shinlang, even if the Yu Kingdom were to fall one day, we would never hand the throne over to Ningjing." Hearing this, Shinlang immediately interjected, "Your Majesty, did you not once wish to eliminate the Jin family? From this, it seems that a king's word is not necessarily unchangeable." At these words, Ning Yuanxian wished he could call on the guards and have Shinlang executed immediately. He, finally suppressing his anger, and said, "Although the 5 officials of the Court of Judicial Review were killed by your concubine, since Ningjing has confessed to the crime, let him bear it himself. Since young Master Shin is so resourceful and wants to assist Ningjing in the struggle for the throne, then you can help him plan well from prison. We are tired. If there is nothing else, you may leave." Hearing this, Shinlang bowed and said, "I understand." With that, he turned to leave. However, just as he reached the corridor, he heard the sovereign say from behind, "Shinlang, we have said that the favor we owe you still stands, and you can come to redeem it at any time. But remember, you only have one chance. At these words, Shinlang suppressed his joy, immediately turned around, and bowed. Your humble servant thanks your majesty for your grace. After leaving the royal palace, Shinlang went directly to the clan affairs court. The pitiful Jin Mutsung was thrilled to see his brother-in-law arrive. He had been kneeling there all day, but everyone recognized Shinlang as the decision-maker for the Jin family in the capital city. Therefore, even though he, the heir of the Jin family, was kneeling there, no one paid him any attention. At that moment, Shinlang walked over to Jin Mutsung and comforted him. You've worked hard. You've done a great job. Go back and rest now. I'll take care of the rest. After a while, Shinlang met the Grand Director, Ningyu, in the reception hall. Shinlang stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Greetings, royal uncle. Ningyu frowned as he looked Shinlang over. He really disliked this glib-tongued pretty boy, but the boy was favored by the sovereign. What he couldn't understand was how someone as honest as Jinjua could have ended up with such a libertine as a live-in son-in-law. So he asked coldly, what are you here for? Shinlang smiled. I have come on His Majesty's orders to visit the 5th prince. If royal uncle has any doubts, you are welcome to ask His Majesty yourself. Hearing this, Ningyu's frown deepened. To disturb His Majesty's rest so late for such a trivial matter would be asking for trouble. He waved his hand impatiently. Go on, go on. You don't need to see me on your way out. The scene shifts to a prison cell in the clan affairs court. At this moment, Ningjing was curled up in a corner, his face filled with despair. He knew in his heart that his father, the king, definitely knew the truth but had no intention of seeking justice for him. It was clear that he intended to keep him in prison for life, or better yet, let him die in prison so he wouldn't bring any more shame to the royal family. Just then, the prison door creaked open and a familiar figure appeared before him. Seeing the visitor, Ningjing was overjoyed. Shinlang, you're finally back. He then stood up, took Shinlang's hand, and asked anxiously, did my father, the king, give you any trouble on your way back to the capital city? And is everyone at home okay? Hearing this, Shinlang comforted him. Don't worry, your highness. Everything outside is fine, and I'm working on a way to get you out. But there's something I need to tell you first. Please be mentally prepared. Ningjing was taken aback, then patted his chest and said, it's okay. Go ahead. I can handle any bad news right now. Seeing this, Shinlang's smile faded and he said seriously, your highness, from now on, I will assist you in joining the struggle for the throne. After we eliminate the crown prince and the 3rd prince, I will make you the heir apparent. At these words, Ningjing was shocked. What did you say? Make me the crown prince, the heir of the Yu kingdom? Seeing Ningjing's reaction, Shinlang was very satisfied. It was this lack of ambition that made him worthy of his full support. He then continued, your highness, we have no way to retreat. You are now in prison, and I am resented by the crown prince and the 3rd prince. They will certainly not let the Jin family go. So, to protect ourselves, we must either bring down the crown prince and the 3rd prince, or we must prepare to rebel. As his voice fell, Ningjing fell silent. Shinlang was right. They were indeed on the brink of desperation. To survive, they had to join this struggle for the throne. However, as a prince of the Yu kingdom, he couldn't just think about himself. He also had to consider the safety of the entire country. With this in mind, he suddenly looked up and asked, Shinlang, do you really think I'm fit to be a king? Shinlang smiled. Your highness, no king is perfect, but as long as one is aware of their responsibilities and uses their intelligence and will for the good of the country, they can become a wise ruler. After a pause, he asked meaningfully, your highness, do you think your father meets the standard of a wise ruler? Before he could finish, a faint cough was heard from outside the prison cell. Eunuch Lily, who was taking notes, was already covered in a cold sweat. Shinlang, you audacious fellow. It's a good thing the sovereign sent me to take notes. If it were anyone else, you'd be dead. Inside the cell, Shinlang naturally appreciated the warning, but he had no choice. Some things had to be said truthfully. Ningjing, however, didn't notice. He pondered Shinlang's question carefully and, after a long while, suddenly looked up and said, I think my father is a pretty good king. Hearing this, Shinlang nodded. That's right, His Majesty has indeed done a decent job, but his weakness lies in his lack of magnanimity. When he likes someone, he is very tolerant, but when he dislikes someone, he can be extremely harsh. I have a similar personality, and as an ordinary person, I don't think it's a bad thing. I just want to live comfortably. But you, your highness, are different. You have endured many hardships, and you possess not only a resilient character but also a tolerant heart. In these two aspects alone, you are stronger than His Majesty. Eunuch Lily, who was taking notes, was terrified by these words. These two really dare to say anything. If I record these words truthfully and present them to His Majesty, will I be silenced? Then he heard Shinlang continue, your highness, you must understand one thing. In the struggle between the crown prince and the 3rd prince, no matter who wins, they will eliminate all the factions and supporters of the other side. But if you were to ascend the throne, the lives of the officials in both factions could be spared. Hearing these words, even Eunuch Lily felt that what Shinlang said seemed quite reasonable. Ningjing also remained silent for a long time before saying, Shinlang, I am not very talented, and in my father's eyes, I am a dull person. But to sit on the throne, one needs the art of kingship. Hearing this, Shinlang laughed as if he had heard a joke. What nonsense, art of kingship. It sounds so impressive, as if all emperors are born that way. But it's all just nonsense. If you don't believe me, go ask His Majesty if he was also a novice in politics when he first entered the court. Didn't he also grow step by step on the path to succession? Seeing Ning Zheng's silence, Shinlang sighed. Your Highness, you are actually very intelligent. You have experienced hardships that other princes have not, so your character is resilient, and you will not easily retreat or fear setbacks. You are broad-minded, so you can tolerate what others cannot. Even if you don't like someone, you will still make use of them if they have talent. As for the so-called art of kingship, it is just a beautiful feather to cover up one's own mediocrity. Your Highness, you must not mistake the means for the end, and this so-called art of kingship is the means. Shinlang's words were delivered with great conviction. At least at this moment, eunuch Lily, who was outside the door, also believed that Ning Zheng was the true chosen one to inherit the throne of the Yu Kingdom. Strange. Why do I feel like I'm about to witness the rise of a new king? But then again, if the fifth prince really succeeds to the throne, with the help of a prodigy like Shinlang, wouldn't our Yu Kingdom become even stronger? After hearing Shinlang's words, Ning Zheng closed his eyes and fell into deep thought. If he was really as good as Shinlang said, then participating in the struggle for the throne was not just for himself, but for all the people of the Great Yu, for all his relatives and friends. Seeing this, Shinlang knew that his goal was about to be achieved, so he said no more and just waited quietly for the final result. About a quarter of an hour later, Ning Zheng suddenly opened his eyes, a bright golden light shining in them. He slowly extended his hand and said, Shinlang, I agree. Help me join this struggle for the throne. The moment their hands clasped, Shinlang said confidently, Your Highness, please rest assured. I will do my utmost to assist you in achieving your great cause. With his eloquent tongue, Shinlang persuaded the fifth prince, Ning Zheng, to join the struggle for the throne, and their entire conversation in the prison was secretly recorded by eunuch Little Li. Half an hour later, in the study of the royal palace, the sovereign, Ning Yuanxian, read the transcript of the conversation between Ning Zheng and Shinlang with a frown on his face the entire time. After a long while, he slammed his hand on the desk and roared, This Shinlang is so audacious. How dare he say that we are not wise and are narrow-minded? Does he have a death wish for saying such treasonous words? However, after venting his anger, Ning Yuanxian suddenly calmed down and slumped back into his chair, muttering to himself, That rascal is telling the truth. My personality is indeed like that, but I've been this way for half my life, and I can't change it now. And just as he said, the current situation in the Yu Kingdom was indeed not optimistic. The civil officials were seriously corrupt, the administration was in disarray, the national treasury was empty, and they even owed the Hidden Origin Society an astronomical debt. The Crown Prince was also very much like him, only more ruthless. After the Crown Prince ascended the throne, although he could stabilize the government and control the officials, it was precisely because he was like himself that the crisis in the Yu Kingdom would likely worsen. As for Ning Qi, he relied too much on military men and the Blackwater platform. Such a character could easily become a tyrant. Thinking of this, the sovereign couldn't help but recall Shinlang's words again, trying to get himself to accept Ning Zheng. However, after several struggles, he finally stood up indignantly and said, We will never come to like that good-for-nothing Ning Zheng. The next day at noon, after a night of rest, the first thing the sovereign did upon waking was to visit Consort Bien in the rear palace. When he saw the 6 months pregnant Consort Bien personally setting the table for him, he quickly stopped her. My dear consort, you are with child. Let the maids handle these things. Why must you do it yourself? Hearing this, Consort Bien smiled gently. It's all right. The imperial physicians have been taking good care of me and the baby these days. Your Majesty has been away from the palace for several months. Today, I have specially cooked a few of your favorite dishes. However, just as she said this, Consort Bien suddenly felt a heavy sensation in her lower abdomen. Looking down, she saw that her skirt was soaked with blood, a shocking patch of crimson. Then, a wave of dizziness rushed to her head. Her legs gave way, and her body fell forward uncontrollably. Ning Yuanxian was also startled by this sudden turn of events. The moment Consort Bien fell, he regained his senses, rushed forward, and steadily caught her collapsing body. The sovereign looked at the blood pouring from between Consort Bien's legs and roared anxiously to the outside. Guards! Guards! Quickly summon the imperial physicians to save her. A moment later, dozens of imperial physicians had gathered around Consort Bien's bed. Everyone in the palace knew how important Consort Bien was to the sovereign, so no physician dared to be negligent in the slightest. At this moment, even the sovereign was kneeling in the ancestral hall, praying to his ancestors and all the gods for Consort Bien to survive this ordeal safely. However, half an hour later, an old imperial physician walked up to Ning Yuanxian, trembling, and said with a shaky voice, Your Majesty, we have done our best. Consort Bien has taken too much medication to preserve the fetus, which has caused a massive hemorrhage during the miscarriage. There is truly nothing more we can do. At these words, Ning Yuanxian exploded with rage. Insolence! If you cannot save Consort Bien, we will have all the imperial physicians in the imperial hospital buried with her. The old physician was so frightened that he immediately fell to his knees and said with a trembling voice, Your Majesty, please calm your anger. Although I have been practicing medicine for decades, a case of internal bleeding like Consort Bien's is truly rare. Even if you kill all the imperial physicians in the imperial hospital, it will be of no use. These words struck Ning Yuanxian like a bolt of lightning, and he staggered, almost losing his footing. In the next second, tears streamed down his face uncontrollably, and he muttered, Why is this happening? happening? Is it because we have committed too many sins, and this is divine punishment from heaven? Just as he was in despair, Li Ji hurried over. Your Majesty, Shinlang once cured Zhang Chang's appendicitis. If he can overcome such a terminal illness, maybe he can also save Consort Bien. Hearing Li Ji's words, a ray of hope suddenly burst forth in Ning Yuanxian's eyes. Yes, there's still Shinlang. Immediately summon Shinlang to the palace. At this time, in the 5th prince's residence, Shinlang was racking his brains trying to figure out how to get Ning Jing out of the clan affairs court. Just as he was at his wit's end, an agile figure suddenly jumped down from the wall. Unexpectedly, it was the surprisingly skilled eunuch Little Li. Lord Shin, eunuch Little Li shouted anxiously. Consort Bien has suddenly suffered a massive hemorrhage and is in critical condition. Please come with me to the palace to save her immediately. After receiving the summons, Shinlang immediately grabbed his medical kit and followed eunuch Little Li to the royal palace. The moment the sovereign saw Shinlang arrive, tears streamed down his face again, with none of his usual imperial dignity. Shinlang, you must save our beloved consort. In this critical moment, Shinlang dispensed with formalities and quickly went to check on Consort Bien's condition. Her face was as pale as paper. She lay weakly on the bed. Her breathing was rapid, all clear signs of cerebral hypoxia due to excessive blood loss. Seeing Shinlang's grave expression, Ning Yuanxian asked anxiously, Shinlang, can my consort still be saved? Hearing this, Shinlang gave him a reassuring look and then asked the old imperial physician, why can't Consort Bien's bleeding be stopped? The old physician quickly replied, Her Highness took too much medication to preserve the pregnancy, which caused severe damage to her uterine cavity when the afterbirth detached. We have no way to stop the bleeding. While listening to the physician's account, Shinlang activated his X-ray vision and began to scan Consort Bien's abdomen. Consort Bien was already thin, with a total blood volume of about 3,000 milliliters. Her blood loss had reached about 1,000 milliliters. At this moment, Consort Bien, clinging to consciousness, took Ning Yuanxian's hand as if to leave her last words. Your Majesty, please tell my brother that glamorous province belongs to your Majesty, not the Bien family. He must not bring disaster upon future generations through greed. Hearing Consort Bien, even on her deathbed, thinking of having the Bien family hand over power and glamorous province to him, made the sovereign's heart ache even more. After saying this, Consort Bien could hold on no longer and fainted. In an instant, Ning Yuanxian's heart felt as if it had been pierced by 1,000 arrows. He let out a pained roar, and then everything went black as the immense mental shock caused him to faint as well. Seeing this, Shinlang shook his head and said to Li Ji, Eunuch Li, don't worry, His Majesty just fainted from the shock. Let's take him back to his bedchamber to rest first. He then activated his X-ray vision again and continued to analyze Consort Bien's symptoms. In modern times, postpartum hemorrhage is usually caused by a retained placenta, but Consort Bien's fetus and placenta had already been completely delivered. Could the continued bleeding be due to a coagulation disorder? Thinking of this, Shinlang turned to Ning Jia, who had come to help, and said, Your Highness the eldest princess, please remove Consort Bien's clothes and then insert the needles according to my instructions. Hearing this, Ning Jia nodded. Once everything was ready, Shinlang pointed to several acupoints on Consort Bien's abdomen and said, Use your inner strength to insert the silver needles precisely into these points. The force must be controlled. It needs to be close to the inner membrane but not pierce it. Ning Jia moved the needles with great skill, and a moment later, when Shinlang scanned Consort Bien's abdominal cavity again, he breathed a sigh of relief. A master is a master. The silver needles had perfectly sealed the wound in the uterus, slowing down the bleeding. Taking advantage of the temporarily stable situation, he asked, Does Consort Bien usually have difficulty stopping bleeding and healing from injuries? Ning Jia nodded. As expected, that explained everything. Based on Consort Bien's symptoms of weakness, it was either thrombocytopenia or aplastic anemia. Women with this condition should not get pregnant. Even if the pregnancy is maintained, with the current medical conditions, it is highly likely to be fatal at the time of delivery. Although Consort Bien's bleeding had slowed, she was still losing blood. At this rate, she would still not escape death. While he was pondering, Ning Jia asked from behind, What should we do next? Shinlang turned and said, Consort Bien has lost too much blood. We must give her a blood transfusion immediately. Hearing this, Ning Jia looked astonished. A blood transfusion? Can blood really be infused into a person's body from the outside? Seeing Ning Jia's puzzled expression, Shinlang nodded. Indeed, it can be done, but the blood types must match. The specific process cannot be explained in just a sentence or two. You will see how I do it. Shinlang was right. Blood typing is a very simple procedure in modern medicine, but for the people of this world, it was unheard of. If done improperly, a random blood transfusion would only cause the blood to agglutinate, completely blocking the blood vessels and thus accelerating death. Although he didn't have blood typing tools, Shinlang was a medical genius. He immediately thought of the method created by Landsteiner at the Institute of Pathology of the University of Vienna in 1900. First, separate Consort Bien's blood to get the serum and make a red blood cell saline suspension. Then, use the same procedure to drop the serum of Ning Yuanxian, Ning Jia, and himself into test tubes. If it dissolves smoothly without any rejection reaction, then Consort Bien could be saved. After a while, Ning Yuanxian anxiously inquired about the results. Shinlang shook his head in regret. All 3 of our blood samples have shown agglutination. The cross-matching has failed. Please find some more healthy people. However, after a round of screening, the final results still left everyone greatly disappointed. Even Shinlang himself was stunned. Not a single one of the dozen people was a successful match. Could it be that Consort Bien had a rare blood type? The thought shocked him. If that were true, then Consort Bien's life would be in danger. He quickly went to the sovereign and reported, "Your Majesty, Consort Bien's blood type is special. All these people have shown rejection reactions." Hearing this, Ning Yuanxian frowned. It must be because these people are not of high enough status. Go and summon all of our royal sons to be tested for Consort Bien. A moment later, the 5 princes arrived upon hearing the news, especially the crown prince and the 3rd prince. Although they were pained to lose their own vital blood, they also knew that if they could save Consort Bien this time, it would be equivalent to winning over the Bien family and gaining the support of Bien Zhao's army. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Just then, Ning Jie ran over anxiously and shouted, "Shinlang, hurry up, Consort Bien is not going to make it." At these words, Shinlang was alarmed. "Quick, give her some ginseng soup, but be careful not to give too much." Shinlang had no other choice. Consort Bien's breath was faint. Although ginseng soup would worsen the bleeding, if he didn't use it to keep her alive, she probably wouldn't last until a successful match was found. At that moment, Li Ji ran over with a tray. "Lord Shin, the blood samples of the princes have all been collected." Shinlang nodded. "All right, let's begin." He then started the cross-matching experiment under the watchful eyes of the sovereign and the princes. Everyone held their breath, carefully watching Shinlang's every move, afraid that he might tamper with the process, and at the same time, hoping that their own blood could save Consort Bien. However, when the final results came out, everyone was greatly disappointed. All the samples had shown agglutination. Faced with this result, Shinlang was also at his wit's end. He dejectedly said to the sovereign, "Your Majesty, please forgive my incompetence. Consort Bien's blood is too special. Not a single person here can donate blood to her." Hearing these words, Ning Yuanxian held his head in pain. "We should have known. Consort Bien has been different from others since she was a child. She almost died from weakness right after she was born. We never thought that after surviving all this time, she would now lose her life because of us." At that moment, the crown prince took the initiative to step forward and said, "Shinlang, there are nearly 1 million people in the capital city. Surely we can find someone who can donate blood to Consort Mother Bien." Shinlang shook his head. "There's no time. Not to mention we don't have that much time for testing. We don't have many blood samples left either." Hearing Shinlang's words, the sovereign also fell into complete despair. "Am I really going to lose Consort Bien? This is all our fault. It is because of the heavy sins we have committed in this life that heaven has sent down this divine punishment, taking away our beloved ones time and time again." Seeing this, Shinlang was about to offer some comfort when Ning Yuanxian said, "Shinlang, we know you have done your best. Perhaps this is all fate. You all may leave now. We wish to spend Consort Bien's last moments alone with her." Shinlang hesitated, and just as he was about to leave with everyone else, Ning Yuanxian suddenly shouted, "Wait, there's one person we haven't tried." "That's right, we haven't tried Ningjing. From the moment he was born, his fate has been different from others, as if he were cursed, very similar to Consort Bien who almost died in her infancy. Maybe his blood can be a successful match." The sovereign shouted excitedly, "Quick, bring Ningjing here." Hearing the sovereign's far-fetched speculation, Shinlang couldn't help but step forward. "Your Majesty, Prince Ningjing's unusual condition at birth was due to jaundice, and even the meteor that destroyed houses at that time was purely a coincidence." However, before he could finish, the sovereign interrupted him. "Shinlang, you may be intelligent, but there are some celestial mysteries you still don't understand." Hearing this, Shinlang pouted. He himself was a transmigrator. What could be more incredible than the strange phenomenon that had happened to him? Well, since there was still some time, he might as well do a cross-match after Ningjing arrived, just to make the sovereign face reality. A quarter of an hour later, a filthy Ningjing walked into the bedchamber. Having not bathed for a long time, the sour smell from his body made everyone instinctively hold their breath. Then, following the standard procedure, Shinlang separated the serum from Ningjing's blood sample and walked up to the sovereign, saying, "Your Majesty, this is the last reagent we have. Consort Bien's blood type is extremely rare, so please be mentally prepared." Hearing this, the sovereign nodded. Then, Shinlang took a deep breath and, under the nervous gaze of everyone present, poured Ningjing's serum into Consort Bien's red blood cell saline suspension. At this moment, as a physician, Shinlang actually held no hope, because only he knew that the probability of finding a match for a rare blood type was like finding a needle in a haystack. All they could do now was leave it to fate. However, in the next second, a miracle happened. The 2 blood samples mixed perfectly, without the slightest sign of a rejection reaction. Everyone in the hall stared at the reagent in Shinlang's hand, their faces filled with disbelief and shock. After a brief silence, Ning Yuanxian was the first to recover, his voice trembling as he asked, "Shinlang, does this mean Consort Bien can be saved?" "Yes, Your Majesty." Shinlang took a deep breath and said with great relief, "We succeeded." Receiving the affirmative answer, the sovereign seemed to be suddenly awakened and quickly walked towards the inner chamber. "Shinlang, come with me to save Consort Bien." After a while, Shinlang took a sterile bottle and drew 400 milliliters of blood blood from Ning Zheng's vein. Consort Bian had lost too much blood, and although this was still not enough, it was sufficient to get her through the crisis. As the blood was slowly transfused into Consort Bian's body, the entire bedchamber fell silent. Everyone was waiting for a miracle to happen. The sovereign sat by Consort Bian's bed, his expression grave as he watched Ning Zheng's blood drip by drip into her body. Consort Bian's breathing gradually stabilized. Half an hour later, color slowly returned to Consort Bian's previously pale face. Ning Yuanxian was overjoyed. She's saved. Shinlang really saved our beloved consort. Where is the imperial physician? Come and check Consort Bian's pulse. The old imperial physician was also shocked by the scene before him. Suppressing his fear, he stepped forward and placed his fingers on Consort Bian's wrist. Feeling a strong and steady pulse, he excitedly knelt and kowtowed. Congratulations, Your Majesty. Her Highness Consort Bian is out of danger. Young Master Shin's skills are truly divine. While everyone was rejoicing, Shinlang, maintaining the professionalism of a former doctor, continued to observe Consort Bian's vital signs and the healing of her internal wounds with his X-ray vision. After a while, he let out a long breath. Thankfully, Consort Bian's own coagulation function was normal. Otherwise, if surgery had been needed, not only would the current medical conditions be unable to support such a major operation, but just the blood shortage alone would have been insurmountable, even if they had drained all the blood from Ning Zheng's body. At that moment, the sovereign said to everyone, "The rest of you may go back. Ning Jia, Ning Zheng, and the imperial physicians will wait outside for now." After everyone had left, the old imperial physician suddenly knelt before Shinlang and said with a trembling voice, "I will never forget young Master Shin's life-saving grace today. If not for your miraculous skills, I'm afraid the entire imperial hospital would not have escaped this disaster." Shinlang quickly helped him up. "You exaggerate, sir." Li Ji subtly nudged Shinlang from behind. Shinlang immediately understood and followed him to a hidden corner. Li Ji then said, "Boy, although you have performed a great service today, remember that fortune and misfortune are intertwined." Though the rescue process was conducted in front of everyone, the fact that only the fifth prince's blood was a match is a coincidence that will inevitably arouse suspicion. There will definitely be people who say that you, Shinlang, tampered with the other cross matches in order to find a backer for the fifth prince, deliberately giving him the credit for saving Consort Bian. Hearing this, Shinlang sighed. "Yes, I'm afraid there will also be people saying that I deliberately framed Consort Bian, causing her to hemorrhage and then saving her to gain immense favor." Li Ji nodded. "It's good that you understand. I am, after all, His Majesty's personal eunuch. If anyone comes to slander you during this time, I will do my best to block them. But people's hearts are treacherous, and whether I can succeed will depend on your own fortune." Hearing this, Shinlang bowed respectfully in gratitude. "Thank you for the warning, eunuchly." The sovereign never summoned Shinlang or Ning Zheng, and the two did not dare to leave on their own, so they could only wait outside the hall, leaning against a stone platform and falling asleep. The next morning, Shinlang felt someone gently tapping his face. He forced his sore eyes open to see Li Ji standing with his hands clasped. "Young Master Shin, His Majesty has summoned you to check on Consort Bian's condition again." Hearing this, Shinlang rubbed his temples and forced himself to enter the inner hall. After a thorough examination, he said softly to Ning Jia, who was standing by, "Your Highness the eldest princess, you may remove the needles now. Please be sure to pull them out one by one, slowly." After Consort Bian was settled, the sovereign came over and asked, "It's been a whole day and night. Why hasn't Consort Bian woken up yet?" Shinlang explained, "Your Majesty, please rest assured. Her Highness fainted due to cerebral hypoxia and needs some time to recover. She will surely wake up within 2 days." Hearing this, Ning Yuanxian was still a bit worried. Could it be that Consort Bian lost too much blood and the amount transfused was too little? Shinlang shook his head. The fifth prince has already given Her Highness a sufficient amount of blood. If he were to give any more, his own body would not be able to take it. The human body can produce new blood on its own, so Your Majesty can rest assured. Hearing this, Ning Yuanxian frowned. How can Ning Zheng's body be as important as our beloved consort? But since you say it's not needed, then so be it. He then said to Li Ji, "Ning Zheng is no longer needed here. Send him back to the prison in the clan affairs court." Hearing the sovereign's cold command, Shinlang felt a chill in his heart. "Ning Yuanxian, you really are one to discard someone after they've served their purpose. Ning Zheng is your own son. After all, he just saved someone's life, and you're throwing him back in prison. Do you have to be so heartless?" As evening approached, Consort Bian finally woke up. She turned her head slightly and saw Ning Yuanxian's bloodshot eyes and haggard face. "My love, you're finally awake. That boy Shinlang didn't lie to us. He really saved you." Hearing this, Consort Bian returned a weak but gentle smile. "I have made Your Majesty worry. Did you just say that it was Shinlang who saved me this time?" Seeing the sovereign nod, a flash of guilt appeared in Consort Bian's eyes. After all, Shinlang had come to her for help before, but she had refused him. Ning Yuanxian saw her embarrassment and comforted her. "My love, you don't need to feel indebted to him. It has been an ironclad rule since ancient times that the Empress and consorts should not interfere in politics, so your refusal was appropriate. It was that rascal Shinlang who didn't know the rules. When he comes later, you don't need to thank him, lest it fuels his arrogance." About half an hour later, Shinlang entered the hall with the imperial physician to re-examine Consort Bian. After a detailed examination, he stood up and reported to the sovereign, "Your Majesty, Her Highness Consort Bien is out of danger. The Imperial Hospital can now take over her care. She just needs to rest and recuperate." The sovereign nodded, indicating that Shinlang could leave. Unexpectedly, Consort Bien suddenly called out to him, "Young Master Shin, thank you for this time." Hearing this, Shinlang turned and bowed to Consort Bien. "Your Highness is too kind. This is my duty. Please rest well. I will not disturb you any further." The sovereign sighed to himself. I told her not to thank him. Now he's probably going to get cocky again. When Shinlang returned to the fifth prince's residence, as soon as he entered the door, he saw the two little girls of the Yu family running towards him in tears. They threw themselves into his arms, sobbing as they described the terrifying experience at the clan affairs court. Shinlang patiently comforted them one by one. At that moment, Little Bing and Ning Zheng's wife, Lady Zhuo, walked over anxiously. Little Bing asked in confusion, "Young Master Shin, didn't you have the fifth prince go to save Consort Bien with a blood transfusion? Why didn't he come back with you?" Hearing this, Shinlang smiled and said, "Don't worry, the fifth prince will be fine. It's just that there are still some follow-up matters to this incident, and I'm afraid we're about to face some turmoil." The fifth prince, Ning Zheng, unexpectedly saved Consort Bien with his special blood type, but this sudden coincidence was used by those with ulterior motives as a handle to spread rumors wildly. For a time, the people of the capital city's misunderstanding of Shinlang and Ning Zheng deepened. A few days later, Shin 13 rushed to report, "Master, there are rumors circulating outside that Consort Bien's miscarriage was your conspiracy, and that if it weren't for you trying to help the fifth prince gain power, Consort Bien would not have suffered this disaster." Hearing this, a disdainful smile appeared on Shinlang's lips, and he said lightly, "It's fine. Don't worry about these trivial matters, because someone is about to have some very bad luck." And just as Shinlang had expected, the one who spread this rumor was none other than the nephew of Consort Bien and Duke Bien Zhao, Bien Nian. This idle viscount had originally hoped to use the incident with Consort Bien to secure a higher official position for himself, but unexpectedly, Shinlang had beaten him to it. At this moment, he was still in a tavern, emboldened by alcohol, spouting nonsense to the crowd. "Folks, Consort Bien is my own aunt. Even I, her own nephew, couldn't give her blood. So how could Ning Zheng? Doesn't everyone find this absurd? It must be that Shinlang who secretly harmed her. This man has a vicious heart, and I will definitely go to the sovereign and accuse him." With that, he prepared to get up and go to the royal palace. In his view, he was the nephew of the mighty Duke Bien Zhao, and his aunt was the sovereign's most beloved consort. Shinlang was just a pretty boy. He could crush him as easily as an ant. After a while, in Consort Bien's bedchamber, Bien Nian was complaining to the sovereign with a resentful face, "Your Majesty, I am my aunt's own nephew. How could my blood not be compatible with hers? And don't you think this whole thing is too much of a coincidence? As soon as Shinlang returned, my aunt had a miscarriage. This could be his conspiracy. I implore your Majesty to have Shinlang arrested and severely tortured at the Blackwater platform. I believe the truth will soon come to light." As his voice fell, the expressions of the sovereign and Consort Bien instantly darkened. These past few days, the reason the sovereign had allowed the rumors to spread was precisely to see who would jump out. He also suspected that Consort Bien's miscarriage was caused by someone, but he had never suspected Shinlang. Instead, he suspected another hidden hand in the palace, but he never expected that the one who would jump out in the end would be this fool, Bien Nian. At that moment, Ning Yuanxian frowned and said, "Li Ji, go and summon the guards from the Blackwater platform." Seeing this, Bien Nian thought his plan had succeeded and knelt down with a gloating expression. "Your Majesty is wise. I believe that under the severe torture of the Blackwater platform, Shinlang will confess everything." A moment later, two guards from the Blackwater platform entered the room. Ning Yuanxian immediately pointed at Bien Nian and ordered sternly, "Take Bien Nian down and interrogate him carefully. Find out who instigated him to spread rumors. You can use torture if necessary." Bien Nian was stunned. What's going on? Aren't they supposed to be arresting Shinlang? However, before he could react, the two guards seized him. At this moment, Bien Nian cried out in terror, "Your Majesty, did you arrest the wrong person? Aunt, save me. Your nephew knows he was wrong." But it was already too late. As Bien Nian's screams faded into the distance, Ning Yuanxian sighed. "These people are getting more and more cunning. I suppose after this, no one else will dare to jump out." At that moment, Consort Bien said softly with a smile, "Your Majesty, why don't you let me handle the rest?" Hearing this, Ning Yuanxian was taken aback. "My love, are you sure you want to get involved in this mess?" A smile played on Consort Bien's lips, and her eyes held a mix of regret and a hint of determination as she said, "It's certainly safer to stay out of it, but I'm afraid I won't be able to have any more children in the future. And although Xing'er has a birth mother, it's as if he doesn't. Besides, I now have his blood flowing in my veins. I believe this is the fate that heaven has bestowed upon us." Hearing these words, Ning Yuanxian affectionately embraced Consort Bien and said, "If that's the case, then we will grant your wish, as long as you are happy, my love." That night, Ning Yuanxian had Ning Jing brought from the prison of the clan affairs court and sent him to Consort Bien's palace. As soon as he entered, Ning Jing bowed respectfully. "Your son pays his respects to Mother Consort Bien." Hearing this, Consort Bien looked at Ning Jing with eyes full of motherly love and said gently, "Are you willing to be adopted by me and acknowledge me as your mother?" At these words, Ning Jing looked at Consort Bien in disbelief. Did he mishear? In an instant, a storm of emotions swept through Ningjing's heart. His entire being, his very heart, trembled with excitement. To have Consort Bien as his mother was something he had only dreamed of. The lonely little Ningjing was 6 years old when he was mistakenly invited by a palace servant to attend a palace celebration. The moment he stepped into the banquet hall, countless looks of disgust and contempt pierced him like sharp swords. The surrounding whispers of ridicule made the poor child freeze in the middle of the hall, at a complete loss. But when he caught sight of Consort Su not far away, a wave of joy instantly overwhelmed the coldness around him. He excitedly shouted, "Mother Consort," and ran towards her. However, when Consort Su saw him, she, like everyone else, turned away in disgust. At that moment, his birth mother's indifference was like an ice pick, stabbing viciously into little Ningjing's tender heart. Just as the coldness was about to swallow him whole, a gentle voice suddenly sounded, like a warm lamp in the dark night, softly falling on his ear. "Don't be afraid, child. Come and sit next to me." Looking back, he saw Consort Bien with a gentle smile on her face. That smile was like a spring breeze, instantly warming little Ningjing's scarred heart. It was from that moment on that a wish took root in Ningjing's heart. If only Consort Bien could be his mother, how wonderful that would be. The memory came to an abrupt end. At this moment, Consort Bien, seeing Ningjing's flushed face and trembling body, asked with concern, "Jinger, are you alright?" Ningjing came back to his senses, his head bowed, his face full of conflict. The warmth in his heart had not yet faded, but his mind was gradually clearing. He stammered, "Mother Consort Bien, I'm sorry. Before, you were the mother of my dreams. But now, I cannot be your child." Ningjing took a deep breath, trying his best to calm down, and then said in one go, "Because I intend to join the struggle for the throne." At these words, Consort Bien was stunned. "What's going on? His Majesty didn't tell me about this. And how are you going to fight for the throne looking like this? His Majesty doesn't like you. You have no power, and you even stutter. What can you rely on to fight for the throne? Could it be?" Thinking of this, she asked with a serious expression, "Tell me honestly, why did you suddenly decide to fight for the throne? Did Shinlang persuade you to do it?" Hearing this, Ningjing shook his head. "No, it's because I want to protect the people who are most important to me. Because in the future, no matter if my eldest brother or third brother takes the throne, they will not let Shinlang and the Jin family go. And the Jin family is the home of my dearest aunt, Su Peipei." Hearing these words, Consort Bien's heart trembled, and her tone softened. "Since you are determined to fight for the throne, don't you need a strong backer even more? Why did you refuse to acknowledge me as your mother? Don't you want my support?" "Of course, I do." Ningjing looked up, his eyes exceptionally firm. "But I have achieved nothing so far. Just because I gave blood to Mother Consort Bien, you want to support me? That's too opportunistic. I long for the support of the Bien family, but that should be because the Bien family sees my ability and potential and believes I am a qualified heir, not just because I gave blood to you. If I acknowledge you as my mother at this moment, it would be like forcing the Bien family onto my war chariot, making them bear responsibilities and risks they shouldn't have to. This is not right." Ningjing's words left Consort Bien completely stunned. She had never thought that Ningjing was such a responsible person. Faced with such a huge temptation, he could suppress his desires and make a calm and rational choice. Shinlang really has an extraordinary ability to judge people, but she quickly calmed down as well. As Ningjing said, if he hadn't chosen to fight for the throne, it would be perfectly fine to adopt him as her son. At most, she would protect Ningjing from being bullied and ensure he received the treatment he deserved. But since Ningjing was going to compete for the throne, she couldn't rashly adopt him, otherwise it would send the wrong signal to the world, making people think that their Bien family supported Ningjing's bid for the throne, which would have serious consequences. Thinking of this, Consort Bien sighed with regret. "Well, it seems that the fate between Jinger and me has not yet arrived."